when we're trying to remember something, right, we generally repeat over and over and over and over again, right? Most people do. But even then, it's still easy to forget, right? We still forget. You can repeat someone's name, you can repeat whatever you're studying, right? We think it's going up in there, and then later on something happens, or we get a phone call, or the day passes by, and we completely forget, right? Ever happened to you? I'm sure it has, right? If it hasn't, then you probably shouldn't be in this session, or you're here to learn more, right? So as I guess a memory guy, my job is to show you some techniques that'll hopefully change your life. I mean, that's why I'm here, because it changed my life. And I want to show you some of these skills so you can walk away going, wow, how did I do this? Or, it's amazing what I was able to remember. So I want you to have that same experience that I did going back 22 years ago now, which is when I started. So here we go. Now, what I usually do is I test people's memory to see how badly they do, right? But because we've got a finite amount of time, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go directly to the technique so we can make the most of it and show you how to use it straight away. So here we go. Now, the technique that I'm going to show you, I'm just going to share my screen, right? This technique is called the number rhyme technique, right? Now, how does it work? Right? Generally, what happens is if we're trying to remember something, it doesn't get stored in our brain. It goes up into the cloud and there's nowhere to retrieve from it. So what we need to do is we need to create like folders on a computer, right? We put the files on folders on a computer. We need to create folders in our head now so we can put the information in, right? And the best way to do that is to create, in this scenario, called a number rhyme. Now, how does this work? Let's go through it. Right? Every number, and I'm doing this in English, by the way, every number rhymes with the word next to it. So here we go. We've got 1 is gun, 2 is shoe, 3 tree, 4 door, 5 beehive or hive, 6 sticks, 7 heaven, 8 gate, 9 wine, 10 pen. Right? You get the picture? So they're all rhyming. Now, what this does is that it creates the folders in our head so we can remember what's inside. Now, the next question is, well, how do we put stuff inside these folders, right? I'm going to go through one example, and then after we do the example and you memorize it, we're going to talk about the practical applications of this skill. Now, by the end, right, I would like you to think of, okay, what are the practical applications can I use this for? And I want to go through that in the Q&A, because I think a lot of the juice will come out from the Q&A as well. So keep that in mind. Maybe get some notes happening on the side. So we've got, let's say we're going to memorize some words, right? And let's say we all go shopping, right? The first thing that I want to remember on my shopping list, let's say, is milk. Now, instead of saying, milk, 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 repeating all the time, I'm going to make a story with milk and gun, right? So milk and gun, I shot the milk and milk went everywhere, right? Can you visualize that? If we can visualize it, what happens is that our brain makes that story, makes that connection. And because it's highly visual and there's an experience, there's a story, it's easier to remember, right? So think of that. I shot the milk, milk went everywhere, right? Next thing we've got is number 2 is shoe. So let's say I want to remember breakfast cereal, right? So I put breakfast cereal into my shoe, right? Or maybe you're eating breakfast cereal out of your shoe, right? What does that taste like? Disgusting, yeah? Next one, we've got number 3 is tree. So let's say onions. So maybe you can picture onions growing on a tree, right? And you're probably thinking to yourself, hang on, onions don't grow on trees. What's going on? But in your imagination, it can happen, right? Maybe people are crying just to get to these onions. Everyone's eating the onions off the tree, right? How does it taste off the tree? Maybe it's nice and fresh, right? Number 4 rhymes with door. So let's say 4th thing on our list is butter. Maybe you're spreading butter all over the door and you put your hand on the door handle and it's all sticky and gooey and disgusting, right? So butter hands on the door, right? If you can close your eyes and visualize that, that'll make it even stronger, right? Next one, the 5th one on our list, we've got hive, like a beehive. So let's say we want to get cucumber. Now I can stick a cucumber in the beehive, right? But that's kind of boring. Or maybe I'm hitting the beehive with the cucumber. Bit more exciting. Maybe the bees start chasing me afterwards, right? Number 6 rhymes with sticks, right? So let's say tomatoes. Maybe I'm poking the tomatoes with the sticks, right? So if you can visualize that, maybe the tomatoes spraying everywhere and you squirt your eye with the tomato when you're poking on with the sticks, right? Number 7, we'll say is heaven. So let's say heaven and we're going to get lettuce, right? We get some beautiful green lettuce. What story can we make? So imagine maybe you're up in heaven and the clouds are made of lettuce, or however you visualize heaven, there's lettuce everywhere, right? Or you're greeted with lettuce. Here you go, complimentary, beautiful fresh lettuce for you. It's heavenly, right? Number 8 is rhyming with gate. So let's say the 8th thing on our list is cheese, right? So maybe the gate was made out of cheese and you had to eat your way through to get to the other side, right? And the whole gate was made out of cheese, right? Instead of saying the cheese was next to the gate, make it imaginative, crazy. The sillier you make the story, the easier it is to remember, right? Number 9 on our list is wine. So wine and let's say chicken, right? So if you've got chicken and wine, some people will say, oh yeah, chicken goes with wine, right? But if there's a story you can make that's crazy, like there's drunk chickens, so much easier to remember, right? Drunk chickens drinking wine. And finally, we've got 10, which is pen, right? And let's say number 10th one, pen and apple, right? So maybe we're drawing on the apple with the pen, or we stab the pen into the apple, right? Or maybe you're eating an apple and you stick a pen with it and you're eating it, right? It's weird way, but again, sillier you make the story, the easier it is. Now, we've only got a minute. What I want to do is I want to test you now. So I will go back to my screen, right? And what I'm going to do, just again, do this in your own time. I'm going to go through a random numbers and let's see if you can recall those words, right? Here we go. And don't write it in the chat box. Just test yourself and your brain, okay? So I'm going to say a random number. You have to try and remember the order of that number, right? So according to the rhyming number. So number 7, heaven. What was happening in heaven? Right? Think of the story that was going on and the word that was in heaven, right? Then we've got number 4, which is door. Think of, okay, what was happening at the door, right? Have you got that? Then we've got number 2, which was shoe, right? Can you remember what was happening in the shoe? Right? What was the story that was created for shoe? Number 6. So that was the sticks, right? We've got a story for sticks. Can you remember that? Then we've got number 10, which was the pen, right? What did we do with the pen? All right, number 1, which was our first one, the gun. Can you remember what we did with the gun? Right, a lot of people usually remember the first one. All right, next one, we've got number 9, which was the wine. Right, think of what was going on with the story with wine. Number 5, so that's the beehive. Right, that was a tricky one. Let's see if you remember number 5. Number 8, which was the gate. I'm seeing a lot of smiley faces here. Some people are getting it right, I'm guessing. So the gate. And finally, number 3, which is the tree, right? So let's see if you got all of it right, right? I'm going to go through the answers and see, and you can correct yourself, okay? Here we go. So number 1 was gun. So in that gun, we had milk, right? So milk for number 1. Number 2 was shoe, and we had cereal. Number 3 was tree, onion. Number 4 was door, which was butter. Number 5, beehive, which was cucumber. Number 6 was sticks, which was tomatoes. Number 7 was heaven, which was lettuce. Number 8 was gate, which was cheese. Number 9 was wine, chicken. And number 10 was pen, right, which was apple. So if you got all 10 of them correct, hit a like or a love heart or a smiley face, whatever you're doing. I want to see who got all of that correct, right? I want to engage and see what you've Amazingly done. So awesome stuff. Well done. Now, we're going to get into question time shortly, but I just want to summarize all that very briefly, is that what we did there was use our imagination and make stories. And that's the best way to remember. We created holding spots. The next session I'm going to run is a more advanced version of that. And you can download this. This was from my book earlier. So this is from the 4 Most Powerful Memory Techniques. You can actually download from my website. So it's got all the techniques in there. So you can go ahead and download that. It's free, so you don't have to pay for it or register. Click on that. So any questions from that? I'll take your questions from Kumar.
Yes, Tansel, it was wonderful. And yeah, there are a few, I think. Let me ask a question from Dave. So how do you deal with the next shopping list? So I understand the shopping list with 10 numbers, but then how do you deal with next shopping list?
Yeah, it's a good question. You can only sort of use this in a way where if you use it again, you're going to get mixed up with previous items, aren't you? So there are other techniques out there, which is the memory palace, which was the technique that we'll be doing next. So yeah, according to certain techniques, you can use this a one-off. So for example, if you want to memorize a speech, you can put your key points into the number rhyme and get your speech that way as well. So it's not just for a shopping list, but you can use a whole lot of other strategies in there to memorize as well. But if you want to keep it for longer term or reuse, then there's other techniques that I'll be talking about as well.
Okay, sure, wonderful. Thank you, Tansel. I think, yeah, I think those are the questions. Others are chat I could read. Yeah, and David commenting, it seems like a complex way to remember, but something obviously works. So yeah, I think those are the questions from the chat window, Tansel, and thank you. I think one more. How are you? Okay, there was some good chat going on happening. I think it's not a question, hopefully, but I think we are almost end of the session. Thank you for this wonderful session, Tansel, and it's been amazing. And the next one coming up at 2 p.m. India time, Memory Technique 2, and we will see you soon there. Thank you once again. Have a good day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all. Thanks for joining.